Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm very excited about our guests today. We have Jason and Linda Shinpaugh, and they are road schoolers. Now, for those of you new to the homeschooling world, there's all different kinds of homeschoolers. Road schoolers are people who actually travel and homeschool their kids on the road. So I'm super excited to have Jason and Linda here, and they have become very dear friends to our family. So, Jason and Linda, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you. So let's start with, okay, you didn't start out road schooling. Let's rewind and talk about your homeschooling journey and then how you started road schooling, because y'all started 7 years ago, road schooling. You've been on the road for 7 years with your kids who are now teenagers. Let's rewind and talk about your homeschooling journey.
All
And
right.
where are you right this second?
Yeah, so we're coming to you from Fort Myers Beach, Florida today. We're from Florida, so we feel right at home with the sunshine and the great weather out there. But Jason and I are both public school kids. So that's important for people to know. And when we got married, we had no expectation of homeschooling.
Mm-mm.
It wasn't even a consideration. And in fact, when we had kids, I had the biggest mortgage business I ever had, and Jason had the biggest real estate business he ever had. So we had, 28 employees between the two of us. And I dropped the kids off at Miss Kathy's house during the day so I could go to work.
Yeah.
So homeschooling wasn't on the table. I wasn't even a full-time stay-at-home mom. So we were completely, not even thinking about this topic. And then when the kids were about 3 and 5, when our son was when he was 4 or 5 years old, Jason would go on work appointments, and this common question kept coming up, and it was, where are your kids going to go to school? What are you going to do for school? And Jason had several clients, from school administrators to teachers. Some guy owned a SAT prep business, and I don't know, you brought the topic home.
Yeah, well, they just kept saying, "Are you going to homeschool?" And we're like, "I don't know." They're like, "It's the greatest gift you can give your family. It's the greatest gift you can give your family. It's the greatest gift you can give your family." Over and over and over, and it was all. I mean, there had to be a dozen people, homeschool moms, homeschool dads,
Most of which we never met before and wouldn't have.
Some.
Yeah, but most of them were new people because of his business.
And we had some people in our family who were in teachers and administrators, and they're like, "Yeah, if you could homeschool, you'll be really thankful you did."
Yeah, things had started to change a lot inside our school system, and the teachers were clearly being compensated for the test scores, and so the curriculum was starting to be changed to teach to the test. And like Jason said, family members that were in the school system who were like the biggest fans of the school that they worked at were starting to bend our ear about homeschooling as well. So,
Interesting.
Faith is our foundation, and we really felt like God was talking to us. And like I said, I wasn't even a stay-at-home mom at the time, and yet Jason and I both acknowledged that there's something here we need to pay attention to and look into. We can't discard this. So we took it seriously, and we started doing our homework. And what we found was that several of our friends were homeschooling, and the moms would get together once a month at Starbucks on a Monday night and just love on each other. They'd have a cup of coffee, they would cut up, maybe they needed to cry, maybe they needed some help, whatever. But it was about 6 different moms, and they would come together once a month, and I invited myself. I went to one of them and I said, "Hey, we think we're supposed to look into homeschooling. You are my people. You're who I know. Can I come be a fly on the wall? I would like to hear what you talk about. I want to hear what you're celebrating, what you're, discouraged about. Like, I just need to come and absorb and just start trying to figure out what this topic is all about." And so we did that. Or I did that. And I did that for a couple months. And by the 3rd month or so, I really felt a part of the group. It felt really normal, what they were talking about. And it was just real easy for me to understand why they were doing what they were doing, and their highs, their lows. And I thought it was just really beautiful, too, how they came together to support each other like that. Meanwhile, we did do the tour of all of the school of choices and the Christian school and the public school in our community. And we knew for sure after each tour or open house that, no, this isn't for us. This one isn't for us. So, and even some of the private schools that were faith-based had very confusing curriculum coming out of them. They would have chapel in the mornings, and they would preach out of all of the different religious books to expose the kids to all of these different ideas. And I thought that was really, I thought that was very dangerous as a 5 or 6 year old, right? Like if you want to study world religion as you get older, that's great. But in those early formative years, I wanted my kids to get truth. I wanted them to get, truth as far as what we believe and our core values and our faith, but also truth in math and science and history and all the other subjects too. So that was really an interesting discovery. And so anyhow, like I said, every time we went to a school, it was obvious that that's not where we were supposed to be. We still didn't decide to homeschool formally yet until May. I think it was Memorial Day weekend that year. Florida has this amazing homeschool conference. And at that time, 13, 14 years ago, there were 20,000 people, Janae, that came to this conference.
Wow.
It's actually more than that now, and they've changed locations. They now have it in a hotel that has their own conference center attached.
Wow.
But it was the Gaylord Palms in Orlando, Florida. And Jason dropped me off because we were running late, went and parked the car. And, everybody kept saying, are you going to homeschool? Are you going to homeschool? Because all of our friends knew we were searching. And I just kept saying, I don't know. We're going to the conference in May. Once we get done, then we'll make our decision. Because what we were expecting is at the homeschool conference, they had classes we could go to, like Homeschool 101. Can I really do this? Or what is this? Am I crazy to think I can teach my kids? These were some of the topics and the talks that I was going to go to because I didn't know. But there was also a trade show with curriculum that we could touch and see. And then we had some friends that were going that offered to be our guide and help us if we had any questions in those couple days. So he drops me off at the door, goes and parks the car. 10, 15 minutes later, he comes in, meets me in this first talk, and I have tears running down my face. Wow. And I said, this is what we're supposed to do. I just like what the person was saying and the way that they started, it just went to my core, right? It really touched my heart. And we knew at that point that we were supposed to do that.
I don't know why we had to go through all this because I already knew. I knew long ago, but we had to go through all these things. I already knew, right? But it was cool. It was a cool affirmation. Yeah. So then we were able to enjoy the rest of the time, not worrying about what we were going to do. It was just that we were going to do that. Yeah. So really, I had that conviction and I had that closure within those first few minutes. So we still went to the classes, but it was with a different lens. Instead of, are we going to do this? It was like, okay, we're doing this. Now how? So let's absorb all the how that we can. Mm-hmm.
So then at that point, what did you pick? And again, you're not road schooling by this point. You don't start road schooling for a few years, right?
Right. So, at this point, our kids are roughly 3 and 5, and they were 6 and 8 when we got on the road. So it was about 3 more years till we would go on the road. Interestingly enough, when I went to the trade show portion of the conference, I gravitated right towards that standard public school curriculum, right? Mm-hmm. Big books, workbooks that the kids would fill out, teacher's lesson plan. That's all I knew. Yeah. Right? I went to college with the instructor teaching me from the front of the room. Like, it's what I knew. And so I had told you that there were a couple moms there that were going to be guides for us. And those women were invaluable, especially one in particular. And so when we would get done with a session, we would just meet up in the hallway. And she just asked me really good questions. She didn't force anything on me. None of her views, not her experience. She would, where did you go? What did you like? Tell me what your thoughts are. Do you have any questions? Are you confused? What's your next step now? And so anyhow, when I had gone into the trade show, she said, what did you like? And I told her a couple different curriculums. And she said, that's exactly what I liked my first time here too. And we agreed, like, it was what we were comfortable with. It's what we knew from our past. And she said, I'd like you to go back in and look at least two more. These are the two I'd like you to go look at. And then maybe that'll allow you to then, venture out a little bit more. So I did. And we started with a curriculum that she had me go back and look at. It was called Heart of Dakota. And it was just a really amazing hybrid of, I still had my teacher's planner. It told me subject by subject, day by day, what to do with the kids. And you what you don't know is I'm a financial analyst by training. So that order and structure was so important to me. Just like Jason, he knew a long time ago we were supposed to homeschool. I needed to check all the boxes. I needed to do all those tours. I needed to go to the conference. I needed to do all of those things. So
stop for a second, because you tend to be the more analytical one, and Jason, you're more of the free spirit, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, keep going with Heart of Dakota.
Yeah, so it was great because there was enough familiarity there for me, but there was this beautiful freedom, I guess, that came with that curriculum. There were a lot of books and reading, and I could just see it was a little more of a casual feel. I knew the kids were going to love it. There were some songs. There were, I don't know, it was this really beautiful combination of what I was comfortable with, but also this classical style of education that I didn't know much about, but that I was really drawn to. So we used that curriculum for the first 2 years, and I had no plans of quitting. Except for we had friends again around us, chit-chatting, and we kept hearing another word being used, another term, and that was classical conversations, and or CC for short. And so, I would go to some play dates with some of my mom friends, and it wasn't if you were going to use CC, but when were you going to start using CC? And one of Jason's buddies actually had lunch. You had lunch with him one day or something, and he said, "Hey, how's the homeschooling going?" Because they homeschooled too. And he said, my wife is in classical conversation with our kids, and they've got an information meeting next week, and she wanted me to make sure if you have any questions about it or have any interest in it, that I tell you about it. So once again, we said, I don't think this is by chance, that we keep running into people and this conversation keeps coming up. So we did go to that informational meeting, and we did learn about classical conversations. And so we ended up switching to that. So our son was first grade, and our daughter was really VPK. Or no, she wasn't even VPK yet. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, maybe she was a VPK then. But so in first grade, we moved over to that, and it was great. We liked that curriculum specifically because once a week we met in a community setting. And so we introduced all the new material in a group, one day a week, and then you would go home and it would play out, however you wanted to take it. However you wanted to take it from there, you could. And so that was really awesome. And that gave me a really nice circle of moms to have consistent interaction with. Every week the kids were in the same classroom with the same tutor and the same kids. So it just, that was a really cool time, and I learned a lot. I mean, there were a lot of moms there with way more experience than me.
And way more kids.
Yep. So
that's why they had way more experience.
and so yeah. Just for the listeners, the classical philosophy is one of the homeschooling philosophies that covers, and this particular philosophy covers grammar, rhetoric, logic, the trivium, and then the disciplines of a liberal arts education. Is that correct?
That's correct. And classical conversations also is a Christian-based curriculum. And so at the core, with all of the subjects, it's to know God and make God known, and showing how all of those subjects are interrelated.
Well, so, and it was based on the one-room schoolhouse. I mean, if you go back to its very basic roots, a long time ago, before all the grades, kids went to school, and they were, every grade was the class. They were in one classroom, and the one room schoolhouse played a huge role in the classical conversation,
right,
or the classical method,
where you can essentially teach a subject to a whole range of kids, a whole range of ages of kids. And the young ones might pick up on a couple facts and maybe sing a little song about it and color a picture. And the older ones, they may go super deep and do a paper and give an oral presentation and so on and so forth. So yeah, and it was really awesome because, as you can tell, I didn't have, I wasn't hanging my flag on any one kind of curriculum or any one way of instructing my kids. We just really felt like these doors opened for us. And as we learned more about homeschooling and then the different curriculums, these were really great solutions for us. And our kids thoroughly enjoyed the curriculum. So we were willing to take the chance of looking into homeschooling, and then we started homeschooling. And then when we heard conversations that were interesting to us or that we thought we were supposed to be a part of, we joined them, and it was really great. So we did classical conversations for a lot of years. When the kids were 6 and 8, we hit the road. So that was in March of 2016. And actually,
and what made you decide to go, let's hit the road? Like, what was it what got you there?
Do you want to talk about that?
I was really burned out on our business and all the things that went along with it. And, basically I woke up one day and I'm like, I got one shot to be a great husband and one shot to be a great dad. And I'm not doing either of those right now. And it wasn't because of anything other than I was just working and, to provide and to do all these things. And I was tattered. I was just tattered. And it was never a goal of ours to move into an RV and start travel. It was not on a vision board. There was no, we just met some people randomly at an RV park, the year before. And here we are, right? 8 years later. So I think for us, it was just an escape. We just needed a break. We didn't need a break from, I was the town I grew up in. I knew everybody, which was awesome. That's how I had grown a great business. But the other side of it was we knew everybody everywhere. There was never, I don't know.
Yeah, and we had started camping too a few years prior to that. And when it was time to go home, nobody wanted to. A long weekend would turn into 4 or 5 days, would turn into a week to 10 days. And the last trip we went on was 3 weeks. And so we had tested the system to see if we could be away that long and still school and still work, and we could. And then, like Jason said, we came across this family, and I said to him, I think they live in that bus over there. I said, isn't that kind of weird? Right? I never even knew that people lived in these.
Well, and today that's obviously, it's so much more accessible. Yeah. There's so many, and most people don't think of somebody who's in real estate and mortgage doing this
to be able to be remote like that.
But we just decided we were going to do it because we were going to go do it, and we would figure it out. Yeah. Right. And we figured it out well. We lived the life very well. We were very blessed by the lifestyle and the amount of people, Janae being one of them, that we've met due to our lifestyle. We would not be sitting here today talking to you and your guests had we not had this lifestyle. Right?
That's true.
I mean, yeah. So it's amazing when you unpack, and there's not near enough time to go through all of it, but we decided to live life differently, and it's completely changed our life. It's changed our kids' lives. It's changed. It's unimaginable, all the things that we've been able to do and experience because of this lifestyle. And so, homeschool, we were already doing it. And you'll see people that go into this lifestyle and they're like, okay, so I'm going to quit my job. We're going to start homeschooling. We're going to move into 300 square feet. We're going to sell everything. I'm like, yep, we'll see y'all in about 6 months back in a house renting. I mean, that's just not, very few people make it.
Well, because it's a big transition, right?
Yeah.
Just in your regular home or whatever environment you're currently living in, to pull your kids out of school or to never send them to school, especially for us. Like, we had no idea what homeschooling looked like, right? Some people have these beautiful childhoods where they're homeschooled and they just naturally transition and do that with their kids. And that's awesome, right? We did not have any kind of springboard like that. And so it's a huge transition. And it took me a few years to realize, like, I didn't need the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s going around the schoolroom, the extra bedroom that we turned into schoolroom. And I didn't need all that stuff, right? It took me a solid 3 years just to, like, be Linda, the mother of Jason and Sarah, and do things our way. Just to be free and relaxed to do that. So fortunately, we had gotten a lot of that under our belts before we decided to move into our fifth wheel at the time and travel full time and then road school.
Well, and I think, for me, like, I'm one of the biggest proponents of homeschool in the history of the world. Like,
I love it.
For all sorts of reasons, and it's interesting. It's generally moms. They generally feel like they're going to ruin their kids. They're going to mess them up.
True.
They're not going to give them enough education. They're not going to, and dads tend to be like, whatever you want to do. And, we've been very involved in this journey together. And there's things that I bring to the table. We play off of each other's strengths. Like, I'm totally like, let's go out and build relationships. I don't care if you know how to handwrite or not. You don't even need it anymore. So let's go. And I do care. Okay. But I care more about them knowing how to behave. I care more about them knowing how to establish relationships in quick time in a restaurant or at a grocery store or whatever. And, you're not going to mess your kids up. You're just not going to mess them up, because if the only thing they ever got was seeing a mom and dad that love each other and spend time together as a family, we're going to win. They're going to win. Like, just that. They're going to win. And now, I mean, our son is 16, and today we met a guy at an RV show who was like one of the most interesting guys we've ever met. I mean, he's owned jets, Lamborghinis. He's got 10 patents and 14 copyrights, and I mean, just random guy parked next to us. And he was telling Jason about this book he read, and he said, it's how I made my first $1 million. He said, I read a chapter of this book every night before I went to bed, over and over and over. And so Jason came home and started doing it. And then Jason reached out to some of his little buddies. They're not little anymore. They're, 14, 15, 16 years old. And says, I want to host a book club once a week, and I want to go through this book together, and I want to talk about our goals. And, and he's facilitating it. He did it all on his own.
But because of, the road schooling, our kids see us running our businesses, having our conversations. We do book clubs with our employees. And so not only are we homeschooling, the subjects that they need to learn, so they have that educational foundation, they are picking up skill sets from us. Like, I never heard my parents working. My mom drove 45 minutes to an office every day. Yeah, I didn't ever hear her have work conversations, or even my parents divorced when I was really young. So I didn't see that example either. And so they see the good, bad, the ugly. Like, you can't hide in 300 square feet, right?
No.
So
right.
If Jason and I are having just a really nice day, awesome. If we're scrapping, well, they're going to hear that too. If we're hiring something, they got it. If we're hiring someone, I'm sorry, they hear that. If we're firing someone, we hang up the phone and they're like, did they know that was coming? Were you fair to them? How many times did you talk to them before you fired them? Right. So they just are exposed to so much. And that doesn't even count all the places we go and how do we get there and different climates, right? Like, we're a family of 4 from Florida, but we've wintered in Breckenridge 3 times. So they know, my son knows how to drive on snow and ice, and they know what to do and how to shovel the driveway and scrape the car off. And so there's just so many things that they've been exposed to that would have never been possible if we'd stayed, in our little town in Florida all these years.
But I think, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, please go ahead. And then I've got some questions for you.
Well, I think this is that time when if somebody's listening to this podcast, maybe they're already homeschooling. Awesome. Maybe they just need to be re-encouraged. Maybe they're thinking about it and they just need to be encouraged to do it. It is by far the greatest gift you will ever give your family. Ever. Ever, ever. It's not easy. It's not perfect. You're not going to mess your kids up. You're not going to screw up their life. They're going to be social. So right now, our kids rode their bike to the beach to spend the afternoon with the retired couple down the street who we met at the RV park, who let us stay at their house for 5 weeks when our truck was stolen, who, the intricacies of the relationships that our kids have, we're intentional about it. If you sit at home and shut your blinds and don't ever let them go out into the world, that's what they'll experience.
Yeah.
But our kids are out experiencing life and people, and the majority of their friends are retirees.
Okay. Because that's the question, because y'all know the first question everybody asks homeschoolers. They're like, well, aren't you worried about your kids and socialization?
Yep.
Right. And
Do you know why they asked that question? Do you know why they asked that question?
Say that again?
I said, I know why. Do you know why?
I don't know why. Honestly, I do not know why
because it's the only thing anybody could potentially ever say negative about homeschooling.
It's true.
So
that is true.
Their insecurity of not knowing about homeschooling.
Yeah, it's all
so let's talk about that. And before I ask that question, what was the book that Jason was given?
I don't
know. I'll go find it. It's
I'll text him while we're good. I don't know.
He told me last night, but I can't remember, because honestly, normally I would feel like I need to listen to the chapter, have a conversation with him, so then he can lead them correctly, and we're just letting him do it.
I love that.
Last night before bed, I said, hey, do you have any questions for me for your book club tomorrow? And he goes, well, let me tell you how he's going to run it. And I said, okay, cool. And so we were talking about it, and I said, that sounds really awesome. Would you like some input? He goes, I would. And so all I did was I encouraged him. He was so excited to get to the meat of it. I want to see, this chapter was about finding your diamonds in your environment, in your business. But so we talked about, I said, he goes, but none of us work. And I said, well, in school and in life, I said, there are diamonds. There are things that you guys are just really, really good at or naturally talented at that maybe you overlook. And he goes, oh, okay, Mom, that makes sense. And I said, let's not ask the big philosophical question to start the book club. Let's reverse the order. But he was so excited to get to that point. And that's all I did. I said, I haven't read the book. I haven't read the chapters. I said, but based upon what you're telling me, why don't we just make sure everybody understands what the diamond is, what that means, what we're talking about, then ask them what they think their diamonds are, and maybe help each other, help them, say something kind about somebody there. Like, I see this as a diamond for you.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't realize, but I think you're really good at this, or you're really talented at that. I said, so you can edify each other and build each other up. I go, then get to that big question of, okay, well, how do we use those diamonds to help us better achieve the goals that we set last week? So that is incredible.
Where did he find these friends? Because I know that's a question. That was a question my head was like, where did he find the friends to create a book club, especially when y'all are on the road?
I'll answer that question.
Okay.
So one family we met in a hot tub in Breckenridge. Another family we met on a Facebook page that was coming to Breckenridge.
For the season.
And another family we met on the top of a mountain to hike into a cave that you had to have a key to go into BLM land that I met. I wasn't sure how I met her.
You met her on a Facebook page.
We had to talk on the hike there.
Because you were both realtors.
On the hike there, I said, how do we know each other? Okay?
I love it.
So that's how we met these families. And there's more. There's more families that we met like that.
But these three families in particular were traveling full time, and we met them on the road. And like Jason said, either because we met them where we were, or he's really good about interacting in some of these Facebook groups of, people traveling and where are they going. And then because of the topics that you're, drawn to, you start to get to know each other. And so we met up with those families for the first couple years. They all three of them have settled. But ironically, they're all in the greater Asheville, North Carolina area. So when we go there, we just have these huge family events, like all of us get together. For a period of time, our kids would play video games. We would give them an hour a day. And so they'd turn the video on and put the headphones on, and all of their buddies would get on the, hey, let's do 8:30 tonight. And so they had an hour to chit chat, visit, and play some games. Our kids are they've chosen to not play video games anymore, which that's a whole nother story, but that's really cool. So now, Willis is like, well, little Jason, but we call him Willis as his nickname. So our son, he decided he wanted to host this book club, and these couple families of kids are super special friends to them, and so that's where he started. But we make friends. So Jason and I have been to conferences all over the country. So as we're traveling as a family now, we use those people that we really enjoyed meeting at those conferences as opportunities to go to a city and connect with somebody.
Does that sound familiar, Janae?
Yeah, I was just saying, well, people, so those listening, this is how we met. Was it on, you connected with my husband on Facebook with real estate, and then y'all said, hey, we're coming to your town.
That's right.
And Jason's like, why don't you come for dinner? And then we went hiking and we had dinner. And it was so fun and an immediate connection. And our kids got along just beautifully. And now we're friends and, we talk.
Yep. And so we're really intentional about that, right? Because otherwise...
You don't have a mouse in your pocket.
Jason's very good at that.
I am very intentional about that. That is my gifting, is I'm a connector. And I
enjoy it. You are a connector, for sure.
But so, for sure. And not everybody has, that in their bag of tricks. But you can just go take a walk around the block at the RV resort. Just go introduce yourself to the neighbors. If they're having a pool party or bingo or whatever's going on, just get out. And just say hello. And before you know it, you've met people. And so our kids make friends all the time. If there are kids in the park, they're going to go play tag and all the things that go with that. They're playing Roomy Cube, whatever. They love to play board games. They do all kinds of things when they find kids their age. But they're also just as comfortable with people our age or the retired folks. And they can have a conversation and play a game and have a meal with anybody.
Which I want to speak to that, because when I met your kids, like, first of all, my kids were like, Mom, it's so good. Like, they're normal kids. Like, and granted, my kids' best friends now are mostly homeschool kids, even though they have, public school friends and all the friends, but they connected right away. And talking to your kids, they're mature and they're fun to talk to. And we still have that stigma as homeschoolers where it's like, oh, your kids are homeschool kids. Are they weird? And yet you meet your kids and they're not weird kids. Like, they're mature kids. And, when we went hiking together, for those listening, the Shinpaughs and us, we went on a hike as a family. And their daughter came up and was talking to me, and then and Linda together, and then she talked to my daughter, and then they were all talking, but they're mature and their conversation skills are interesting and far outweigh the public school kids. And this is I'm saying some words that might offend some people here, but when I talk to public school kids, they don't know what to say to me as an adult. I have to get them talking. I have to pull things out of them. They get awkward until they're around somebody their own age. And yet when you talk to the Shinpaugh kids, they are comfortable immediately with strangers, talking and having great, interesting conversations. And there's no fear of adults at all.
Right.
Which I think speaks volume to you as parents, number one. But number two, it shows what homeschooling can do for kids.
100%.
But you
know
have
what I
to
mean?
be intentional about it. So I think it's important for people to understand that. It doesn't just happen. From the time our kids were 3 or 4, we demanded a level of respect relative to their age. Right? So when somebody would come over to our home, they had to say, hello, nice to meet you, and look them in the eye, and then they could go about their stuff. We didn't expect them to sit at the dinner table for 2 hours and talk about our real estate business or whatever we were talking about, right? Over time, if we went to a restaurant and we were meeting a family or business professionals, the rule was, you're going to have dinner and we're going to engage in whatever conversation And if we choose that we're going to stick around longer, you may watch your iPad because it's not fair to make you sit in a restaurant for 2 hours. That's not fair to them.
Right.
But
Yeah.
until dinner was over, there was no electronics. It was, you're going to sit here and I don't care if you play with the creamer packets, you're going to be engaged in whatever level is going on. And so now they can sit and talk for 2 hours. Now they want to go to dinner. Now they want to sit in and listen to the conversations we're having. Now they want to talk to those people. They want to find out why that guy has a Lamborghini, or they want to find out, how did you get an airplane? And they're fascinated by it. And it's amazing to see the compliments we get on our kids, and it's very honoring and it's very humbling. But in my mind, they're just behaving how they should behave.
Yeah,
They're polite and using manners, and they talk to you like but in today's world, that's so different than what most 14 and 16-year-olds are doing, right?
No, it's true.
And so I will never not appreciate somebody saying that to us. And there's literally never a day that we go to an RV park.
It really, I mean, it astonishes me how many times people do comment on our kids as we're traveling. But I love that because we're spreading a good message, right, about homeschoolers, that they are normal, they are friendly, they can have a conversation, they're respectful. But it really breaks my heart sometimes when people will say, these are the nicest kids I've ever met. And to Jason's point, we've just taught them how to shake your hand, look you in the eye, and say, nice to meet you. Like that's all we did when they were 3 years old, just learning to talk. And, we taught them to share. Our son will open the door for any person. He will rush up there and open that door, whether he knows you or not. These are not complicated things. And, and I think most homeschoolers, most homeschooling parents, we're homeschooling because we want to do it. Some situations are unique, but we had a choice. We did not have to do this. We could have sent him to public school. We could have afforded to send him to private school even. We had options, but we wanted to spend that time with our kids. We believed we could do a better job than where our public schools and the others that we interviewed, where we thought they were headed with their curriculum. We felt we could do as good or better job. And, and it's just been this really beautiful output.
Well, and now think about this. Half of our kids' life is spent in a hallway in 300 square feet.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay. And their relationship is as tight as it can possibly be.
Yeah.
So do they get on each other's nerves? I mean, Linda gets on my nerves, for crying out loud. That's a real thing, right? So of course they do. But they don't get on each other's nerves so bad to be like, I want to go get a house. Like when we stayed in these people's house that were super kind to us, it was a 3-story house. Our kids didn't rest well. Sarah's like, I can't hear anybody breathing. That's how tight our family is. And it's you don't understand those things until you get to spend so much time. And we're very intentional about taking a break. Last week we took 2 days, we left the kids behind, and we went away and celebrated our anniversary. Every year that our kids have been alive, we've taken a vacation, just the two of us. So we're intentional about having our space too. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's important, but it's kind of weird, like, we don't really want it. We want them to be there with us. Like, we go to a beach and I'm like, man, I wish the kids were here. Right? And so there's a lot to it, but our intention behind it is for them just to be outstanding young human beings, and everything else will take care of itself. Everything else, when it's ready, they will figure out how to do what they need to do to win. Yeah. And by the way, the name of that book is, he just texted me, Lead the Field.
Lead the Field.
Lead the Field.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just listening to it on audiobook and taking notes.
I think they're listening on
connecting.
YouTube even.
Oh yeah, it's actually was free. That's right. Mm-hmm. I think they might be listening to it on YouTube. So even better for the kids.
Yeah. So if your kids want to listen to it, Lead the Field, and you can listen to it free on YouTube. Okay, let's talk about, and thank you for that, by the way. Okay, so when y'all get to a campground, how long do y'all stay at a campground at a time? And you're in an RV. I guess I need to clear.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
1 week to 6 months.
When we started, and this is, I will call it a mistake. This is the mistake you make when you are new to traveling in your RV full time, is you tend to move too quickly. right? You have this, and we're going to go here and we're going to do that. And we're going to make this loop, or we're going to do 50 states in 1 year, or, whatever that goal is. And, you have to allow for time. We both work, we're not retired. So we have to make time for that Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 grind, right? There's got to be time for us to work. There's got to be time for the kids to get their school done. So if we want to spend a couple days exploring an area, we typically need a week to do that, right? Because it's those couple days plus the regular daily life commitments. So as we've spent more time traveling, the time that we spend at places has increased. So we don't like to go anywhere less than a week if we can help it. And then, like Jason said, we've spent 6 months. Like when we went to Breckenridge the first time, we went for we actually went 8 months. We spent August 1st to May 1st. We truly got to experience what it was like to live in a small ski resort town, and just do that lifestyle. So it depends, but I would say on average, probably every
it's 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, I was going to say 1 to 2 weeks
for us. And it depends on what we're doing. Like this summer, we're going to be heading out west, so there'll be a 2-week period where we move every few days. We're going to take our time getting out there, but we're going to move on and get out there. So, and then when we get there, so it just depends. It depends on where we are and what we're doing. But we definitely...
Well, and the reasons we go places now, it'll be 8 years on March 24th March 24th, 2024 will be 8 years. And so we travel for different reasons now than we did before. In the beginning, we wanted to go here and here, and, you kind of have your bucket list and your itinerary of wouldn't it be cool to go up the East Coast and do like the lighthouse tour and go to Maine and Canada and all this, and then go see the Grand Canyon and everything that's around there. Now we're traveling for events that we want to go to or people that we want to spend time with. And most of those people are people that we've met on the road.
That's so cool.
So, yeah.
Now, as far as schooling goes, because that switch, classical conversations tends to be very intensive and you're in person and things like that. How did that switch once you hit the road?
Yeah, let's circle back to that. So when we got on the road, we were intentional about going places that had a classical conversation community and plugging into that. And so they had a fall and a spring semester, and they were 12 weeks long. So when we started, we would commit to those 12 weeks in not always in the same spot. We might do the first 12 weeks in one place, and then we would travel over the Christmas holiday, and then we would do the 12 weeks in the spring somewhere. And then in the summer, we would move more rapidly because the kids wouldn't have school, so I didn't have as many commitments, and we could go and travel and see more things. We did that for maybe 2 years.
more than that.
Maybe closer to 3.
It was until 2000.
And then we just had a bad experience.
Babe, that was 2021.
Okay, yeah.
So it's 5 years.
So, yeah. Okay. So we did that, but we did that for like a year or two. Then we didn't plug into a community, but we kept traveling. Then our son went into the junior high level. And I thought we would be done traveling at that point. I thought 3 years on the road. I never dreamed we would travel more than 3 years, because at 3 years he would be going into the 7th grade, and that was a new section of classical conversation. I was super comfortable with grade 1 through 6, no problem, got that. But once we got to grade 7, it changed a lot, and I told Jason, I said, I'm not willing to do this without a community. So we plugged back into a community, and that was fine. But after doing that a couple times, we did have a bad experience, and which was fine. Our son was super respectful, and he came to us. He said, I'm not trying to quit doing the schoolwork. This environment just isn't good for me. It just isn't the right place for, the right group of people for me. And
which I love that he had that emotional intelligence to go,
he did.
This isn't working.
He was super respectful. And so, but here's how we handle it. I said, I get it. But when I worked for Eli Lilly, which was a huge pharmaceutical company, and there were like 350 of us in the finance department in the world headquarters, right? So I get it. You're not always going to get along with everybody. And sometimes the person you have to work the closest to, or your manager or whatever, isn't your favorite person, but sometimes you got to suck it up, Buttercup, right? Sometimes you just have to learn how to deal with some of these, right? It's just a real life skill, right? We're
Yeah,
just not
it's
going to
real.
quit.
Yeah.
I mean, we could easily have said, okay, fine, we're done, right? We homeschool. But instead we said, okay, let's talk about it. What's the issue? Okay, great. We're going to give it 3 weeks and let's role play this. And so we did, right? And when this happens, can you respond this way? Or, we just gave him some tools to try to deal with the things that he wasn't enjoying in that environment. And on the 3rd week, we talked about it and we said, you know what? It's okay. Like,
yeah, but I think there's a little more, and this is the power of having parents that are different and have different views, but can sit down and talk about this, because Linda's her background and the corporate and the this and the this and the this, and so her and I were having conversations outside of the kids. Jason came to us after dinner. He said, "Can we talk?" And he presented his case. He wasn't being defiant. He wasn't anything, and we were going back and forth of like, how do we navigate this, because we're not going to quit. But
right.
And so we talked a lot about that, and then like it just became very clear to me. And I said to Linda, I go, why do we live the life we live? Because we want to choose it. Why do we homeschool? Because we want to choose it. So guess who is the very first person on the planet that would not put up with that situation?
Jason's raising his hand for those of you only listening.
So we had to be honest about our life and about the balance,
right?
Because Linda would persevere through it and just see it through and suck it up. And I'm like, no. What he is experiencing, I wouldn't put up with. So let's find a way that we can both agree to navigate this and make it a win for our son, and our daughter, because she was watching, right? Yeah. And so we didn't quit. We just went a different direction.
Yeah. Well, we used it as a teaching opportunity for those couple weeks. And then we sat down and we said, we really appreciate the way you brought this subject to us and your willingness to work through it the last couple weeks. And we 100% agree with you that the situation isn't going to change. And he says, I will do all of the work from home. You will not have to worry. I won't get behind. And so we said, and we believe you. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And the funny thing is, Sarah stayed in the program because she was having a great experience on her side of the hallway. But so after that, that was not only a great turning point or learning lesson for him, but it was for Jason and I too. And we just decided, like, we don't want to keep putting ourselves in these 12-week commitments that we may or may not enjoy. And nobody in our family was wanting to quit traveling. So we wanted to
cramp in our style.
And so we continued then with CC for a little bit, but it really got to a place where, they did some mock trials. They were dissecting things for anatomy. There were things that I couldn't be a one-man band and do that with my kids. And we also, about that time, maybe a little bit later, but our kids started expressing interest in other things, are doing a YouTube channel, and things of that nature. And so we just started looking at the curriculum that we were following through a different set of glasses and said, does this really fit what we're doing as a family? Does this fit the direction that our kids are going to go in? As they started getting into the upper teen, mid and upper teen years, their interests were changing. Do they need a steady diet of Latin still? Whatever it is, right?
Why do they have to know trigonometry? Who said they have to know trigonometry? Who said?
Yeah.
Who said? Right? And that's part of the whole underlying current of what we do is we want our kids to learn what they're interested in, but more importantly, we want them to know how to learn. That's been our goal all along, is just to become great learners. Because if they're great learners when they're 22 and they decide they want to do something, they can learn to go and do it. Versus saying, well, you're 14 and you got to know this because the school system said you got to be here and you got to know this and you got to do this and you're not on grade and you're this.
Yeah.
Says who?
Who said?
Crazy.
Who said?
That's crazy.
But you also bring it back to your personality as a parent, right? Because I am more of a rule follower than Jason. Jason would have scrapped it all a long time ago and just did what he thought was right. And I'm way more methodical. I want to make sure I'm building. I want to make sure that the next subject is appropriate, or the next level is where
And lucky for our kids, we're both right.
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
good news for our
It is
kids.
a good balance.
They're so luckily for them, they don't have somebody standing over top of them, which is what Linda would do. This isn't a negative thing. That's how she's wired. Yeah. And the opposite would be me, of like, well, of course we're going to the beach all day every day. Why wouldn't we? And that's not good either. Okay, so
right.
Collectively, we have spent a lot of effort behind the doors, navigating this and having conversations, and we've really, just like in our businesses, we play off of each other's strengths, because there's things that I've done with the kids that have made Linda uncomfortable, and she goes, oh, I know why you did that now, right? I mean, there's things that, and so that's what it takes. Is it takes both people participating. Otherwise, all they're getting is just this one thing. And they would have been just fine had Linda been. They wouldn't have been just fine if it was just my way. Right? I mean, they just wouldn't have been. They would be the most social people, and
they wouldn't know how to add 2 + 2.
That's right. They wouldn't know how to balance their checkbook. But
so the really cool thing is that at year 10 or 11, I just relaxed to a whole nother level with my kids, and said, okay, like, I thought this was the plan. I thought we were just going to go through graduation doing this. I thought we could be in a community, and we could do it outside of a community, but it just really didn't serve us as a family anymore, and it was okay.
Yeah.
And so I let go of it, and I really spent that next summer thinking about my kids. What was effortless and easy and fun for them, and what were their God-given strengths? Like, how could I build those stronger, right? Or but how can we build those stronger, help them navigate whatever it is that you could call them your weaknesses. Our daughter's never going to be a math teacher. That's okay. Like, she would rather, that would bore her to death. It would steal her joy. She just isn't going to be a math teacher. So, to Jason's point, does Sarah have to go through trigonometry? I really have to,
kicking and screaming, parents crying,
even
homework.
Even if she gets an A in the
all
course, is it necessary? Like, where is enough in this, all these different parts of our curriculum per child? Because our kids are as different as we are in a lot of ways, and so so my son is doing the last level of math. It's supposed to take 2 years. And he is also spends at least 15 hours a week editing our YouTube videos. He's convinced he's going to finish that curriculum in a year. Love that about him, but I'm like, you're going to get in trouble if you do more than 3 lessons a week, right? Like, and he's like, I did 5 this week. So
you're like, okay.
We have these 2 totally different kids,
but here's the thing:
with natural strengths.
If you want something done, ask Sarah to do it. You want something ordered on Amazon? 12 seconds, done. Right? If you want something done with accuracy, you ask Jason to do it.
Right.
Okay, now, the 2 of them collectively, what they can accomplish, and that's why we're teaching them to work together, because they need each other. They need each other. In life, one day when we're gone, they need each other. Because collectively, what they can do, just like Linda and I, what we can do collectively is far more than what each of us can do individually. And that's what we're doing as a family. Collectively, all 4 of us now are navigating life. And every business that we're building right now is built around our family doing it.
So to kind of sum this curriculum up, Sarah's in 9th grade, Willis is 11th grade right now. We're at the end of those years. And they have a way more of a hand-picked curriculum than we've ever had the entire time we've homeschooled. And it's great. It's perfect. Some of it's at grade level, some of it's above grade level, some of it's below grade level. It doesn't matter. It's perfect for where they are, what they need individually, what they struggle with, what they're really good at, and like Jason said, where we're going as a family. the skill set that they need to do all this.
Do you remember Linda was telling Sarah about something to do? And do you remember this? And she looked at Linda and she goes, "Mom, do you really think that I would ever do that? If I needed to do that, my assistant would be doing that for me." She's 11.
At the time,
right?
yeah.
11. Well,
I love that.
Where do you reckon she heard that at? Me. Yeah. Right? That's how I think. That's how we talk. That's how we, and I love the fact that she can identify. Do you really, in public schools, she's going to get punished for that. They're going to think it's a cop-out. I'm celebrating that because she's understanding how the world works. That's not her gifts and talents. That's somebody else's gifts and talents. Don't steal it from them. Right?
I love that. So where do y'all see yourselves in the next, 5 years? Do you want to keep traveling, or do you want to settle back down? Like, what does that look like in the future for y'all, for your family?
So if we vote, 3 of the 4 of us are 100% all in on traveling for the foreseeable future. One of us would like to have a house. That would be you.
Linda.
I was going to tell him in a minute who it was. I would love to have a house just to go back to for, a month or 2 at a time and spread out. There's just a certain amount of what's that called? Nesting, or that I would like to be able to do on a bigger level. But where we are right now is we're going to keep traveling. We got this brand new motorhome about a year ago, and we haven't even broken it in. And so we're enjoying it. We did start a YouTube channel in the last year, and we have been studying as a family. It was like taking an MBA course. We have been going through a coaching program and studying how to understand this whole world of social media, not just YouTube. And if you ask our kids, especially our son, right, he's 11th grade, so everybody asks him, "Hey, Willis, you going to college? What are you going to study? What do you think you want to do with your life?" And he'll tell them, he says, "I'm not going to college right now because I don't want to do anything that I need a college degree for." He said, he'll tell you, he says, as a family, we're building up a YouTube channel about our travels, and that's what I want my future to be. He and Sarah both would like being a YouTube family to be their company, right? And in fact, they've gone as far as they're starting to pick out the motorhome that they'll have. So that way they'll move out, but they'll just move next door, basically, so we could travel as a family as they get older, but having 2 motorhomes. And they know down to the layout of the bus. They've started talking about that, and the colors and the cars they're going to have and the toys that they want to have in their stacker trailer. So
now you think about that.
It's pretty cool.
But think about what you just said, right? We have a 14 and 16-year-old who are trying to figure out how, number one, they can do it together.
Yeah.
I love that.
And still be in a proximity to their mom and dad.
Yeah.
Like, now please tell me what curriculum would supersede that. There is none. There is none. And that's what it's about. And when you let go of, you're going to mess up your kid, and we got to have this, and they got to know this, and you get into just a place of true relationship, everything else works. And I'm telling you, every person who's listening to this, you're not going to screw up your kids. You're not if you decide to homeschool. The fact that our kids, this is their plan. Not one word from us. This is their plan. And it's their plan together. And I mean, it literally brings me to tears just thinking about that level for a 14 and 16-year-old who are usually butting heads and hate each other, don't want anything to do with each other, and, living in a hallway, living in 300 square feet, living life like this, moving, internet not work, all this stuff. And they just want to keep doing it, and they want to do it in proximity to us. Yeah. Hey, that's winning.
That's a big deal.
That is
absolutely winning.
Yeah, it is. And road schooling and homeschooling, that's the difference, is the proximity. It's awesome when you're homeschooling because you are closer, right? And you can catch that nonsense, and you can coach your kids through, being mean to their brother or their sister, or, you get a lot more opportunities to shape them. But when you're road schooling like this, it's like 10x, right? At least. And that is the coolest part, is that, given the opportunity, they're like any other brother and sister. They could duke it out. They could argue all the time. They could, you're getting on my nerves, all of that. But again, it's just simple things that we have repeated over and over and over again since they were born. Really, is just how, we're family. You always are going to have each other's back. I've told them before, I said, you just try to get sideways. I said, I don't care where you live in the country. I don't care how old you are or how old I am. I will be on your door, because it's not acceptable, right? We love each other. We give each other the benefit of the doubt. If we have a problem, we talk about it. Like, Janae, we sit at the dining room table at least, well, we eat all of our meals together practically, but at least once a month at dinner, we will ask everybody at the table, how are you feeling about this lifestyle? Are you still happy? Like, we really get a litmus test, because it's important to us, right? It's important that all four of us are enjoying it, that we're doing it in a way that we're all growing. There have been a few times where I was like, I gotta get out of here. This is too small. It's messy. It was just really bothering me. I like order. I like organization. I like everything put away and neatness. And Jason and the kids really honored me with that, right? They said, Mom, we're sorry. We could do a better job. And so they came up with the plan, and, and they've been doing it, and it's really awesome. But, road schooling is a whole nother level of homeschooling, for sure.
Yeah.
But if you just love your family and enjoy spending time together and have a heart of gratitude for that special bond that you share, that will get you a long way. And then you just need to go outside and take a walk around the block sometimes, too.
That's right.
Okay. Last two questions. The first question is, what is the name of your YouTube channel? So I can put it in the show notes so that people can look it up.
It's The Shinpaughs.
The Shinpaughs. And that, okay. And I'm going to spell this for everybody. Actually, I'm going to have y'all spell it, because I'm afraid I'm going to butcher your last name.
Sure. It's like your shin, Shin, and then like a dog's paw, but it's spelled Paugh. So Shinpaugh. The Shinpaughs with an S on the end.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I'll have a link to that so that people can look that up in the show notes and see you. The last question, final thoughts for parents that are new to homeschooling or thinking about homeschooling. What would you say?
Want to go first?
I there's not enough words for me. We could have a whole nother hour on this one topic. Just do it.
That's what I was going to say.
Just literally do it. Quit being afraid. Quit listening to the voice in your head, the little devil on one side and the angel on one side. Quit being afraid. And you know what? Quit being afraid of spending the time with your kids. I think that's a real fear. I think people are afraid to spend that much time as a family. And I think nobody wants to say that out loud, but I think it's a true thing. And I think people are afraid to spend that much time together. Don't be afraid. You will look back in your life, and you will not imagine all the blessings that come from spending the time. And it's not always easy. And sometimes you just want to, jump up and down and throw a 3-year-old temper tantrum. It is by far the greatest gift we have ever given our family. It supersedes anything we could have ever thought of. We were just doing it to do it. Looking back as we're, navigating further into it, going on the road has been amazing. It gave us the ability to do that very easily. But you guys, I'm just telling you, whatever you do, don't be afraid to do it. Do not be afraid.
And I would encourage you, and I'm going to be as quick as possible in my answer, but all the things that are going through my head right now, Janae, that I would like to share are, if you're a public school kid like we were, take those glasses off as quickly as you can. That's not what education has to look like, right? And if you think about it, when your kids, and maybe your kids aren't old enough, look at other kids. Ask people who have kids older than you. 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. Do you know what they're learning? Their ABCs, their 1, 2, 3s, how to stand in line, how to be polite, how to sit in a chair and pay attention to the teacher. You can do that at the park. You can go to the park and talk about shapes and colors and how many swings are over there and how many kids are in the swing. So how many swings are open? Like, you don't have to go in a classroom and use these workbooks and have the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s around you. Like, I really want to encourage those of you who are considering homeschooling, really look at what's being taught. And then when we get into, grade, upper grade school, junior high, high school, even just thinking back when I was in those classes, like in high school, I had a math class, I had a French class, which was an elective, right, that I chose. Um, I don't even know if I had history in high school. I did have a science class, and then I had band, I had show choir, and a PE course. I really only had 3, maybe 4 hours of academics, and the rest were electives or fillers, right? So that way I had a place to go for those hours of the day as a public school kid. Again, like, there's no judgment on that. But when you think about bringing your kids home and teaching them, you can teach them everything they need to learn in a few hours a day. And then beyond that, you can lean into who they are and build those strengths and soften those edges and just really let them blossom, right? And so that was something that took me a long time to understand. Because I felt like, well, gosh, I had 8 periods or 7 periods when I was in junior high and high school. So what 7 classes am I going to teach my kids? And all of that time that so I just encourage you, take those public school glasses off, look through a different set of lenses at this, and figure out, like, just really, like, take a different look at what you think school is supposed to be and what it can be. And it really can be a blessing for you and your family.
I love that. Jason and Linda Shinpaugh, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your wisdom and your experience. It's been such an honor to have you on today. So thank you.
Well,
Mamas and
thank you.
papas, you got this. You got this. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Shanae.
Thank you, guys.